When someone hurts you, the first reaction is usually anger, silence, or shutting down. But those responses don't actually help you heal or move forward. They only give the other person more control over your peace. The real strength comes from knowing how to respond in a way that protects your dignity, sets the right boundaries, and makes sure you don't lose yourself in the process. That's what we're diving into today. 3 powerful responses you can use when someone hurts you. Responses that shift the power back in your hands without lowering yourself to their level. Choosing calm over chaos when someone hurts you is one of the hardest things to do, yet it is also one of the most powerful choices you can ever make in your life. Hurt often comes suddenly and unexpectedly, leaving you with a rush of emotions that feel overwhelming. Anger rises, your heart races, and your mind scrambles to figure out how to respond in a way that protects you. In those moments, chaos feels like the natural reaction because the pain is loud and demands attention. But true strength is not in matching the chaos someone else brings into your life. It is in taking control of your own emotions and refusing to hand over your peace. Calm is not weakness, it is control, and it is the kind of control that keeps you from saying or doing something you regret later. Chaos wants you to explode, to react without thinking, to throw words that cut just as deeply as the ones that were thrown at you. Calm, on the other hand, is steady, it is composed, and it reminds you that not every fight deserves your energy. The choice of calm is not about ignoring the hurt or pretending it doesn't exist. It is about directing your power inward instead of outward. When you respond with calm, you take back authority over the situation because you show that the other person's actions cannot dictate your behavior. Calm doesn't mean you don't feel the pain. It simply means you refuse to let the pain control the outcome. People expect chaos. They expect you to break down or lash out. But when you stand in calmness, you become unpredictable and unshakable. Calm creates space for you to think clearly, and clear thinking is what leads to the right response instead of a reaction you regret. Every time you face hurt, you have a choice. Feed the fire or put it out. Chaos is like gasoline poured on flames. It only makes things worse, bigger, and harder to handle. Calm is the water that cools everything down and keeps the damage from spreading further. By choosing calm, you are not giving the other person permission to continue. You are showing them that their attempt to disrupt you will not succeed. This is not about winning or losing. It is about maintaining control over your own emotional state. The moment you give in to chaos, you hand over your power to the one who hurt you, and that only deepens the wound. But when you stay calm, you keep your power where it belongs, with you. Calm also creates a different kind of presence. People pay attention to calm strength because it is rare and it commands respect. When you can hold yourself steady in the middle of emotional storms, you become someone who is not easily moved or manipulated. Calm allows you to listen without reacting, to understand without agreeing, and to respond without cruelty. It gives you the time to process what happened, to filter out what matters and what doesn't, and to decide what deserves your words and what deserves your silence. Calm doesn't rush, it waits, it observes, and it acts with purpose. There will always be a temptation to meet chaos with chaos, to prove that you can hurt just as much as you've been hurt, but that only pulls you down to the same level as the one who caused the pain. Calm lifts you above it. It shows that your peace is not up for negotiation. It reminds you that control over yourself is more powerful than control over others. Calm makes you strong enough to face pain without becoming pain yourself. It is not easy, it takes practice, but every time you choose calm over chaos, you build a stronger version of yourself that no one can easily break. Setting boundaries that are firm but respectful is one of the most necessary tools you can use when someone hurts you, because without boundaries, people will continue to cross lines that damage your peace and your sense of self. A boundary is not about punishing the other person, it is about protecting yourself. It is a clear signal of what you will and will not allow in your life, and when you set it with respect, You are showing that you value yourself enough to draw that line without lowering yourself to hostility. Boundaries give you freedom because they allow you to engage with others from a place of strength rather than fear. They are not walls built to shut everyone out. They are doors that you choose when and how to open, and they keep you from being consumed by someone else's negativity or harm. When someone hurts you, the easiest path might seem like shutting down or cutting them off completely, but that doesn't always solve the deeper issue. Sometimes the most powerful move is not walking away, but standing your ground with clarity. Firm boundaries let people know that your kindness is not weakness, that your willingness to forgive is not permission to be mistreated again. They protect your emotional energy by creating clear expectations about how you deserve to be treated. The firmness is important because vague boundaries are easy to dismiss, but when you communicate them directly, they become undeniable. Respect is equally important because the way you deliver your boundaries reflects your strength. You don't need to shout or demean the other person to prove your point. You only need to state it with calm certainty and then follow through. Boundaries are not just about words, they are about actions. If you say you will not accept a certain behavior, but then allow it to continue, the boundary is meaningless. Firm boundaries are lived out through consistency, through showing others that you will not bend when it comes to your well-being. This consistency earns respect even from people who may not like your rules because it shows you are serious about protecting your values. Respectful boundaries, however, keep you from turning defensive or bitter. They allow you to hold your ground without turning the interaction into a battle. Instead of shutting doors with anger, you are opening them with strength and clarity, showing that you are capable of holding others accountable without losing compassion or dignity. The truth is, setting boundaries will sometimes disappoint people, and that is okay. When someone benefits from you not having boundaries, they will resist when you finally put them in place. That resistance is not a sign that you are wrong. It is proof that the boundary was necessary. Choosing yourself is not selfish. It is healthy. And when you set limits respectfully, you teach people how to engage with you in a way that builds trust instead of breaking it. You show them that your presence in their life is a privilege, not something to be taken for granted. Boundaries also help you discern who values you and who only values what they can take from you. Those who truly care will adjust and respect your needs, while those who only want control will push back. Firm but respectful boundaries also give you inner peace because you no longer feel trapped by the actions of others. They give you space to breathe, space to heal, and space to grow without being pulled into constant conflict. They shift the focus from trying to change someone else to protecting yourself, which is the only thing you can truly control. Every time you enforce a boundary, you reinforce your own worth. You remind yourself that you are not defined by how others treat you, but by how you allow yourself to be treated. And when you do this with respect, you rise above the hurt while still standing strong in your truth. Using clarity instead of silence when someone hurts you is one of the most powerful ways to reclaim your voice and your strength. Silence often feels like the safer choice because it avoids conflict, but silence can also create confusion, resentment, and an open door for repeated harm. When you choose clarity, you take away the guessing, the hidden tension, and the unspoken anger that builds up inside. Clarity is not about being harsh, it is about being honest. It allows you to communicate your pain, your expectations, and your boundaries in a way that leaves no room for misunderstanding. People may not always like what you say, but they will respect that you had the courage to say it instead of holding it in. When you remain silent, you carry the weight of someone else's actions on your shoulders. That silence grows heavier with time, and instead of protecting you, it slowly damages your peace from the inside out. Clarity breaks that pattern by putting the truth where it belongs, out in the open. Speaking with clarity means you are no longer hiding your hurt or pretending that something didn't affect you. It is standing up for yourself without raising your voice. It is giving the other person a chance to understand the impact of their behavior and giving yourself the relief of being heard. Silence locks the pain inside, but clarity frees you from carrying it alone. Clarity is not about proving you are right or making the other person feel guilty. It is about ensuring that your feelings are not dismissed. Clear words are strong because they cannot be twisted or ignored the same way silence can. They provide a mirror to the other person, showing them exactly how their actions affected you. That doesn't mean they will always change or respond how you hope, but it does mean you have done your part by expressing the truth. That alone is freeing. When you use clarity, you are telling yourself that your voice matters and that your emotions are valid enough to be spoken aloud. That is self-respect in action. The challenge with clarity is often fear. Fear of confrontation, fear of rejection, fear of escalating the situation. But clarity doesn't require aggression or anger. It can be calm, steady, and firm. You don't need to shout to be clear. You only need to speak the truth without dressing it up or watering it down. For example, instead of staying silent when someone disrespects you, clarity sounds like saying, "What you said hurt me, and I need it to stop." It is simple, it is direct, and it leaves no room for doubt. That kind of statement may feel uncomfortable in the moment, but the long-term peace it gives is far greater than the temporary comfort of silence. Clarity also prevents misunderstandings. Many conflicts grow larger because one person assumed the other understood their silence, when in reality, the message never reached them. Silence is open to interpretation, and people will often interpret it in a way that benefits them. Clarity removes that option. It leaves nothing unsaid, which means nothing can be manipulated later. It holds people accountable because they cannot claim ignorance about where you stand. It protects your relationships from being built on assumptions and makes sure your needs are part of the conversation. When you use clarity instead of silence, you are choosing courage over avoidance. You are refusing to let pain linger unspoken and refusing to let someone else's actions have more power than your voice. Clarity strengthens you because it forces you to face the truth and put it into words. It also shows others that you value yourself enough to demand respect. Silence often keeps you stuck, but clarity moves you forward, even if the outcome isn't perfect. And each time you practice it, your voice grows stronger, your confidence grows deeper, and your ability to stand in your truth becomes unshakable. Detaching from their behavior and not taking ownership of pain that isn't yours is one of the hardest yet most freeing lessons you can learn when dealing with people who hurt you. Often when someone causes harm, you immediately start asking yourself what you did wrong, whether you deserved it, or if there was something you could have done differently to prevent it. This self-blame becomes a cycle that traps you in unnecessary guilt and makes you carry a weight that doesn't belong to you. Detachment is the act of separating your worth from their actions, recognizing that their choices are a reflection of them, not of you. When you stop personalizing their behavior, you stop handing over your peace to someone who has already shown they don't know how to handle it responsibly. Pain caused by others is often rooted in their own struggles, insecurities, or brokenness. People lash out, manipulate, or disrespect not because you failed, but because they are battling things within themselves that spill over onto others. Detachment is reminding yourself that you are not responsible for fixing them or carrying the consequences of their actions. You can acknowledge the hurt without accepting the blame. You can see the pain they tried to place on you and choose to set it down instead of holding it close. This shift changes everything because it allows you to stop overthinking and replaying the moment in your head, searching for answers you will never find. When you detach from their behavior, you free yourself from the constant need for approval or validation from the very person who caused the harm. It is easy to believe that if they had treated you better, then you would feel better, but that only ties your healing to their choices. Detachment gives you your power back by breaking that link. It says, I am not defined by what they did to me. I am defined by how I choose to rise above it. This mindset doesn't erase the pain, but it keeps the pain from controlling your sense of self. You begin to see that their disrespect, betrayal, or harsh words are more about who they are than who you are. Detaching also protects you from internalizing patterns that are toxic. If you take ownership of someone else's cruelty, you begin to believe lies about yourself that aren't true. Lies like you are not enough, you are unworthy, or you deserve to be treated that way. Carrying their pain as your own keeps you living in a shadow of self-doubt. But when you separate their behavior from your value, you see those lies for what they are, projections of their own brokenness. You learn to say, that was their choice, not my truth. This separation is what allows you to heal without being dragged back into their storm. Detachment doesn't mean indifference, and it doesn't mean pretending you are unaffected. It means feeling the hurt, but refusing to build your identity around it. It means learning to observe their actions without letting them sink into your core. You can acknowledge that what they did was wrong. You can grieve the impact it had on you, but you don't have to accept the false belief that it somehow defines your worth. Detachment is both emotional protection and mental clarity, and it allows you to stand in a place of peace while the other person continues to wrestle with their own chaos. When you practice detachment, you also start to recognize patterns in others more clearly. You see that the way someone treats you is often the way they treat everyone, and it stops feeling personal. You begin to realize that their behavior was never about you, but about how they operate in the world. This understanding doesn't take away the pain, but it makes it lighter because you stop carrying the illusion that you could have changed the outcome by being different. Detachment gives you the freedom to walk away without bitterness, to release the blame that was never yours, and to focus on protecting your peace instead of carrying their pain. Walking away with strength when needed is one of the most powerful responses you can give to someone who hurts you, because it takes far more courage to leave than to stay and fight battles that are no longer worth your energy. Many people believe that walking away is a sign of weakness or surrender, but in reality, it is a statement of self-respect. It says you value your peace more than you value proving a point. It says you are no longer willing to stand in a place where you are diminished or disrespected. Strength in walking away is about knowing when a situation is no longer serving your growth and having the courage to take yourself out of it without looking back. When someone causes pain, the instinct is often to argue, to prove your worth, or to try to change their perception of you. You want them to see the truth, to acknowledge what they did, to give you the closure you think you need. But the reality is, not everyone is capable of giving that. Some people will never admit their mistakes, and some will never value you the way you deserve. Waiting on them to change or chasing their approval keeps you tied to their behavior, and in that space, you continue to suffer. Walking away with strength means you stop waiting for them to validate your worth. You decide for yourself that you are enough, and you refuse to stay where your value isn't recognized. There is a deep power in silence that comes with walking away, not the silence of being ignored or silenced, but the silence of choosing peace over chaos. When you walk away, you are no longer pouring your energy into defending yourself to someone who refuses to listen. You are no longer wasting words on ears that are closed or hearts that are unwilling to change. Walking away is not about running from problems. It is about refusing to live in cycles of pain that have no solution. It is a conscious decision to put distance between yourself and the source of harm so you can heal, grow, and thrive without being pulled back into the same wounds. Strength in walking away also shows in the discipline it takes to resist the urge to return. Sometimes you may feel drawn back, either by the hope that things will change or by the comfort of familiarity. But real strength means remembering why you left in the first place and holding on to the truth that you deserve better. It means trusting yourself enough to believe that what lies ahead is greater than what you are leaving behind. Every step away is an act of reclaiming your power, an act of choosing yourself in a world that sometimes tells you to tolerate mistreatment just to keep the peace. But peace built on tolerating harm is not real peace, and strength reminds you of that truth. Walking away with strength also inspires others. It sets an example that it is okay to outgrow situations, to let go of relationships that no longer nurture you, and to prioritize your well being. It shows that walking away is not about bitterness, but about bravery, not about giving up, but about rising up. There is dignity in choosing to step away with your head held high rather than staying in spaces that slowly break you down. Walking away is a reminder that endings are not failures, they are beginnings. They are proof that you love yourself enough to let go of what hurts and to open yourself to what heals. Every time you walk away with strength, you reinforce the truth that you are not chained to anyone's behavior. You are free to choose, free to leave, and free to build a life that reflects your worth. Walking away is a declaration that your heart is not a place for disrespect to live in, and your mind is not a battlefield for someone else's war. It is choosing wholeness over brokenness, and it is proof that sometimes the most powerful response is not in what you say or do, but in the moment you decide to no longer stay where you are not valued.